In a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the shining cities and great space stations of the Galactic Council, a peaceful planet called Thalos cried for help. The Thalin, gentle, plant-like beings with leaf-colored skin and glowing eyes, lived in harmony with nature. They never built tall machines, never fought wars, and never learned to harm others. Their world was green and full of life. But now that life was dying. A strange black fungus had appeared in the deep forests of Thalos. It spread fast, killing trees, plants, and even animals. It burned through crops and infected the air. The Thalin tried everything, cleansing winds, sunlights, and even old forest rituals, but nothing worked. The fungus kept coming. Desperate, the Thalin sent a signal to the stars, a call for help, a voice full of fear and hope. It echoed across space, bouncing off satellites and space beacons, reached every advanced world in the galaxy. The Galactic Council received the signal first. They held a meeting. Tall beings in shiny robes sat in a bright white room, talking in calm voices. "The Thalin are weak," said a blue-skinned official. "They cannot protect themselves." "The fungus is dangerous," said another. "If it spreads, it may reach our own systems." "They are a lost cause," said the council leader, her eyes cold. "Let nature take its course." The council sent no reply. They turned their backs on Talos. Ships were told to avoid the area. The peaceful Thalin had been left alone to die. But the signal didn't stop there. It kept moving through the void of space until it reached a small human outpost on the edge of the Orion line. The humans were not part of the council. Not really. They were newcomers to the galaxy, known for their strange ways, their meat-eating habits, and their wild courage. Most aliens called them carnivores and kept their distance, but humans didn't care much about names. At Outpost 17, a small group of humans listened to the Thalin's message. Commander Reed, tall and quiet, watched the recording in silence. His short dark hair was messy from sleep. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp. Around him stood three others: Myra, a clever biologist with soft brown eyes; Jonas, the strong engineer who always had grease on his hands; and Tali, the youngest medic in the group. The message played again. It was shaky and broken, filled with static, but the fear was clear. "Please, help us. The forests are dying. We have no weapons. We have no cure." Reed stood up slowly. "We go," he said. Jonas frowned. "Commander, the council already rejected them." "I know. This could be a one-way trip," Mira added. "You don't even know what this fungus is." Reed looked at them. "I don't care what the council says. If we don't help them, who will?" There was a moment of silence. Then Tali smiled. "I'm in." One by one, the others nodded. Within 2 days, the humans loaded their supplies onto their old ship, the Ironwind. It wasn't fast, but it was strong. Medical pods, tools, scanners, flame units, and food packs, everything they could carry. As the ship lifted off, the outpost radio crackled with warnings. "Outpost 17, you are moving toward a level 5 quarantine zone. Do not proceed." "Repeat, do not proceed." Reed simply switched off the radio after 5 days in space. The Ironwind reached Thalos. What they saw broke their hearts. The once beautiful planet looked sick. From orbit, they could see great black patches on the surface like burns on skin. Smoke rose from dying forests. Rivers had turned gray. They landed on a small hill near what used to be a Thalin village. As the ship opened, the crew stepped out, dressed in protective suits. The air smelled musty like wet mold. The sky was pale, and the wind carried faint black dust. From behind the trees, a group of Thalin approached slowly. They were tall, thin, and green-skinned. But their color was faded, and some had marks on their arms where the fungus had touched. They moved like tired leaves in the wind. One of them stepped forward. She was old, with soft vines flowing from her head like hair. Her name was Alone. "You came," she said softly. Reed nodded. "We heard your message." "The council ignored us," Alone whispered. "We're not the council." She looked at the humans, her eyes filled with tears. You eat flesh? That's what they told us? That you are cold and wild. Reed looked at the burning forest in the distance. Maybe we are, but we don't run from people who need help. Elone bowed her head. Then welcome to Thalos, brave strangers. As the sun set over the blackened trees, the humans got to work. Tali began treating sick Thalon in a makeshift tent. Jonas started building air filters from ship parts. Mira took samples of the fungus and began scanning them, her hands moving. Quickly over the datapad and Reed he stood watch, staring at the edge of the forest. Something moved there, deep among the shadows. Something alive. And angry. Whatever was coming, he knew this was just the beginning. But humans were here now. And humans did not abandon the weak. Not now. Not ever. End of part 1. The ship Ironwind stood like a gray rock on the sick soil of Thalos. Its engines were silent now, its crew already working. The sun rose slowly through the pale sky, but it gave little warmth. The forests, once green and alive, now looked like black skeletons. Leaves hung dead on branches. The wind carried the smell of rot. Commander Reed walked toward the edge of the Thalon camp. He wore his light armor, a rifle slung across his back, not to attack, but to stay safe. He saw a group of Thalon children hiding behind a half-broken tree. They stared at him, eyes wide, afraid but curious. He bent down slowly and opened his hand, showing them a small piece of shiny metal. A tiny solar chip. It caught the sunlight and blinked. One of the smaller children stepped forward. She had pale green skin and soft eyes. Carefully, she touched the chip and smiled. The others followed, whispering in their musical language. From a distance, Elone the Elder watched with quiet wonder. These children, they've never seen machines, she said softly. Reed stood up beside her. We don't want to scare them. We just want to help. Elone nodded. They feel your hearts, even if they don't understand your language. In the center of the camp, Mira, the biologist, had already set up her lab. She wore a mask and gloves, her hair tied back tight. She looked through the small microscope, her face full of worry. Fungus was not simple. It moved, grew fast, and had strange cells. Cells that reacted to light and heat. Even stranger, the fungus seemed to learn. It changed shape based on its surroundings. Jonas, sitting nearby fixing a broken purifier, looked up. Bad news? Mira didn't look away. It's not just a plant or a disease. It's something more like alive. She nodded, like it's thinking, or at least trying to. In the evening, the humans set up their own camp just outside the Thalon. Village tents were raised, tools placed in clean rows. Security lights stood on top of the hill, powered by a small solar panel. Its beam shined across the dark trees. Tali, the young medic, worked with a group of Thalon healers. She showed them how to use clean water, how to cover wounds, and how to protect their lungs from the air. A young Thalon girl named Neru followed. Her everywhere. Neru was quick and curious, asking questions in broken galactic basic. Tali answered with smiles and simple words. We wash first, Tali said, showing her hands. Neru copied her, then giggled. Wash first, she repeated proudly. But not all Thalon trusted the humans. That night, a group of Thalon elders gathered under a large tree. Its bark was dark, and many of its roots had turned black. They eat flesh, said one. They come. With fire, said another. They may bring more danger. Elone raised her hand. They came when no one else did. And they did not bring war. They brought medicine, tools, and kindness. Still, fear was hard to erase. But then, a scream cut through the night. A Thalon scout ran into the camp, his legs covered in burns. The fungus, it moved. It swallowed the western trees. Reed and Jonas rushed to him. Behind him, thick black smoke rose in the distance. Where? Reed asked. The scout pointed. Near the old river. It's crawling now, like it has legs. Without wasting time, Reed gathered the team. We scouted, he said. Mira, you stay with the samples. Jonas, bring the drone. Tali, stay with the villagers. Jonas raised an eyebrow. You really want to go in there at night? Reed nodded. That's when it moves. The Ironwind's drone flew ahead, its lights scanning the ground. The humans followed carefully in light suits, their boots crunching over dead leaves. Then they saw it. The fungus was thick and wet, like black moss, but it pulsed softly, like breathing. Long tendrils moved across the soil, reaching for trees and rocks. It climbed slowly, killing everything it touched. Then it turned. The fungus noticed the drone. Strange screech echoed through the forest. Small creatures infected birds and insects rugged toward the noise. Reed shot them down quickly with a stun blast. It's protecting itself, he said. Jonas pulled him back. It's more than that. It's hunting. Back at Camp Tali, and Mira shared their findings with Alone and the other Thalon. The fungus lives on life, Mira said. It needs organic matter trees, animals, even you. Alone's face was pale. And what of your people? What does it want from you? Myra looked at her seriously. We think our bodies fight it better than yours? Maybe it's afraid of us. Maybe that's why no one else came. They're afraid too. That night, the humans added new barriers around the village: sensor lights, fire lines, and clean air. Vents. The Thalon watched with wide eyes. They were not used to fire. They were not used to weapons. They were starting to understand that sometimes, to protect life, you had to fight for it. Reed stood near the light tower, looking at the black forest beyond. Neru walked up to him, holding a small flower in her hand. It was one of the last bright plants left. She gave it to him. For a brave man, she said. Reed took it, smiling softly. Thank you, Neru. She looked at the forest, then back at him. You stay? He nodded. As long as it takes. The next morning, the first infected animal reached the villagia twisted. Deer with black vines growing from its back. But the humans were ready. Flames roared. Weapons fired. The creature fell. The Thalon watched in fear and awe. They had never seen such power used with such care. Not to conquer, but to protect. And for the first time, they began to believe. The humans had come, not to rule, not to hurt, but to stand between life and death, between hope and darkness, and they weren't leaving. End of part 2. The sun rose red and weak over Thalos. The forest near the village was quiet, too quiet. Even the birds had stopped singing. Inside her tent, Mira studied a fresh fungus sample under the scanner. Her face was pale and focused. The fungal cells were moving, changing shape as if they were watching her. The more she zoomed in, the more alive it seemed. Commander Reed entered the tent. He looked tired, his eyes lined with dark shadows. What did you find? He asked. Mira leaned back in her seat. This isn't a normal fungus. It doesn't just spread. It reacts. Reacts how? When I expose it to heat, it builds resistance. When I use chemicals, it splits itself. It's like it learns each time I attack it. Reed frowned, like it's thinking. Maybe not with a brain, Mira replied. But it adapts fast, almost like it has a memory. Outside, Jonas was repairing the village's power system. He'd added new lights around the Thalon, Holmes high beams that kept the night clear and bright. Beside him, a few Thalon were learning how to connect wires and seal pipes. One of them, a young male named Selin, watched carefully as Jonas fixed a broken circuit. Why do you help us? Selin asked. Jonas wiped sweat from his forehead because no one else will. You eat animals, Selin said. But you protect us. Jonas grinned. Yeah, well, eating meat doesn't mean we're heartless. Selin tilted his head. Strange creatures. Humans. Yep, Jonas said, but useful. Later that day, a patrol team returned with bad news. The northern barrier is gone, said one of the human scouts. Something tore through it. No signs of what did it. Reed stood near the map table, tapping the surface with his fingers. Any infected? None seen. The scout replied. But the trees there are hollow now, like something drained them. Reed looked at the others. It's spreading faster. Tali, who had just come back from the field hospital, spoke up. The Thalon are getting sicker. The spores are in the air now. Even the children are coughing. Mira stood slowly. If we don't act soon, there won't be anything left to save. That evening, Mira, Reed, and Tali moved to a sealed lab tent outside the camp. They placed a living sample of the fungus inside a special container made from human alloy. The plan was risky, but it might help them learn more. They placed food samples, nearby vegetables, meat, old fabric. Then they watched first the fungus reached for the plants. It spread over the leaves, devouring them in seconds. Next, it tried the cloth-absorbing parts of it. But when it touched the meat, something strange happened. The fungus hissed and shrank back. Reed leaned forward. Did it just avoid it? Mira nodded, shocked. Metrial animal protein, it's toxic to it. Tali blinked. So that's why humans are safer. Our biology scares it. Reed smiled faintly. We have a weapon. By morning, the team had a new plan. They started mixing small pieces of cooked protein with local soil, just enough to make the ground unpleasant for the fungus, Jonas. Designed small capsules that exploded on contact, releasing the compound in infected areas. They called them meat bombs. The Thalon found the idea strange but hopeful. Elon, the elder, came to Reed. You are using your nature. To save ours, she said. We use what we have, Red replied, even if it's strange. You are not what I expected, Elon whispered. Neither is this war, Reed said. That night, disaster struck. A group of Thalon scouts, curious and brave, went too far into the forest. They didn't return. The next morning, their bodies were found near the riverbank. But they were not alone. The fungus had changed them. Twisted vines had grown through their limbs. Their eyes were empty. Their bodies moved. Even after death, the first of the infected creatures had appeared. Reed ordered an immediate lockdown. The villagers were brought inside the safety zone. Extra lights were placed. Every entrance was sealed. The team gathered around the command screen. It's not just a plague, Mira said. It turns things into itself, like a hive. Tali looked sick. It's copying life, wearing it like a mask. Jonas slammed his fist on the table. We need more than bombs now. We need fire. Reed nodded. Then we build flamers. We train the Thalon to use them. Over the next 2 days, the camp changed. The peaceful villagers were taught how to fight, not to kill, but to survive. Jonas and Reed taught them how to hold tools, how to defend their homes. Some were afraid. Others learned quickly. Selin became the first Thalon to handle a flare gun. His hands shook, but his eyes were steady. I will protect my people, he said. Alone blessed every tool and every machine, placing soft leaves on them. We do not love fire, she said, but we thank it now. Then came the attack. In the deep of night, the infected creatures came. They moved like shadows, half animal, half vine. Their eyes glowed with fungal light, smashed into the outer fence, climbing like spiders. But the humans were ready. Reed led the defense, flare rifle in hand. Fire lit the sky. Jonas shouted, launching meat bombs into the trees. They exploded, burning holes in the forest. Tali ran between the wounded, helping both Thalon and humans, and Solanyang, afraid but brave, stood on the front line, protecting the children's shelter with a torch. The battle was long, but by morning the infected were gone. The village still stood. Smoke curled into the morning air. The forest was quiet again. Reed looked at the damage-burnt ground, wounded soldiers, tired faces, but there was also hope. Elon placed a hand on his shoulder. We would have been lost without you. Reed shook his head. It's not over yet, but you stayed, she said, even when no one else would. Reed looked at the rising sun. That's what humans do. End of part 3. Talos had changed. The once peaceful planet was now a place of smoke, heat, and fear. Trees no longer sang with birds. The sky often turned gray, filled with ash and black dust. But the humans were still there, and so were the Thalon. The village stood stronger than ever. New fences had been built. Watchtowers were placed at every corner. Human lights and Thalon symbols mixed together like two worlds joining as one. In the command tent, Commander Reed studied the map. Red dots marked the places where the fungal creatures had been seen. They were spreading faster, now moving in groups, attacking with strange intelligence. Mira entered with new data. Her eyes looked tired, but her voice was steady. "The fungus is evolving again," she said. "It's learning to resist our fire. It's building." "Nests? Nests?" Reed repeated. She nodded. "Deep underground. Big ones. We can't reach them with air bombs. Need to go in." Reed looked at the blinking red light on the map. "And we burn it from the roots." Meanwhile, in the training area, Jonas and Selen were helping the Thalon build new weapons. Flamethrowers, flare sticks, and protein bombs were now part of daily life. Selen had become a natural leader. He taught younger Thalon how to fight without fear. His voice was calm, his steps confident. "You must listen to the flame," he told them. "It is wild, but with focus. It protects." One of the young Thalon asked, "But what if it hurts us too?" Jonas, overhearing, spoke up. "That's why you train. Fire doesn't choose sides, but we do." That evening, the ground shook. At first, it was soft like a heartbeat. Then stronger. The air became thick. The wind changed, and then, from the eastern trees it came. A giant creature twisted with roots and fungus stepped into view. Its body was part tree, part animal, and part something else. Its head had empty eyes. Its arms were long and made of black wood, and its chest glowed with fungus light. Reed stared from the watchtower. "What is that?" Mira's voice trembled. "It's a hive beast. The fungus made it. A guardian." Creature roared a deep, unnatural sound that shook the earth. Panic spread through the village. Thalon ran to shelter. Children cried. But the humans moved fast. Red gave orders. "Stations ready. Jonas, light the flares. Selen, take your team to the west side." The beast slammed into the outer fence, shattered like dry wood. Flames lit up the sky as the defenders opened fire. Bright orange fire sprayed across the trees. Meat bombs exploded near the creature's legs, burning deep into its flesh. But the beast didn't stop. It crushed the water tower and roared again. Fungal vines shot from its arms, wrapping around buildings and pulling them apart. Reed jumped down from the tower and ran toward the front line. He aimed his flare rifle and shot 3 times, each hit glowing on the beast's chest. Jonas drove a fuel cart straight into the creature's path. "Get back," he shouted, then triggered the flame charge. A fireball rose into the air, covering the monster in burning oil. It screamed, but it wasn't dead yet. Inside the medic tent, Tali was helping the wounded. One Thalon had a deep cut from falling debris. Another was coughing badly from the smoke. She moved quickly, hands steady. "Hold this," she told Neru. The young Thalon girl who had become her helper. Neru pressed a cloth over a wound.
"I will."
"We die?" she asked softly. Tali looked at her and smiled. "Not today." Sighed. The battle reached its peak. The hive beast had lost one arm. Now, just a burning stump. But its other arm grabbed a large Thalon hut and threw it across the village. The roof smashed into the ground near the food stores. Selen saw it. "We must stop it now." He grabbed a heavy flame launcher, climbed onto a broken wall, and aimed for the glowing core in the beast's chest. "Now," shouted. Reed saw him and understood. He ran forward, shooting again and again to distract the monster. Selen fired. The shot hit the core, burning deep into the heart of the creature. It let out a final roar and fell with a crash that shook the whole village. Silent smoke drifted. Embers floated in the wind. Then cheers, shouts, tears. The hive beast was dead. After the battle, the village was quiet again. Reed walked through the remains. Buildings were broken. Trees were gone. But the people, both Thalon and human, were alive. Elone approached him. "You faced the storm with us," she said. "And you stood strong." Reed nodded. "So did your people, especially Selen." Elone smiled. "He says you gave him courage." Reed looked around. "We're not done. Yet, there may be more beasts, more nests." "But we're ready now," Elone said. That night a meeting was held. Around a large fire, both humans and Thalon sat together. They shared food, fruits, nuts, and even human-made bread. The air was filled with soft music played by a Thalon pipe. Mira shared her latest discovery. The fungus avoids strong protein, she said, and it weakens in dry heat. If we combine both, we may be able to stop it from spreading. Jonas added, we're building deeper fire tunnels. If they try to move underground again, we'll trap them. Tali stood and looked around. We're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting so they can live again. Selen raised his torch. For Thalos. For those who stayed. Everyone cheered. High above, the stars watched in silence. The Galactic Council still refused to answer. They believed Thalos was lost, forgotten world. But humans didn't believe in giving up. They believed in fire. They believed in blood. Believed in standing strong, even when no one else would. And tonight, Talos still lived because of them. End of Part 4. Smoke still floated over the village of Thalos, but something new had taken root. Hope. The hive beast was gone. The humans and Thalon had stood together and survived the strongest attack yet. Fires had burned away the infected trees, and now, the skies were slowly clearing. But the war was not over. Inside the main lab tent, Mira worked beside her microscope with full focus. Small vials were lined up on her desks, some with liquid drawn from human cells. Behind her, Tali helped arrange the test tubes, her hands moving carefully. This new sample came from Jonas's blood, Mira said, pointing at a small glass tube. It's rich in certain proteins. When mixed with Thalon cells, the fungus doesn't grow. Tali raised her eyebrows. So human biology can protect the Thalon? Not completely, Myra replied, but it gives them a fighting chance. The solution wasn't a cure, but it was the beginning of something powerful. Mira called it Protein Shield, a new formula, a line of defense. If they could safely inject it into the Thalon, maybe the fungus couldn't infect them again. At the training ground, Jonas showed a group of Thalon how to build simple flame tools. Using scrap metal, wood, and leftover parts from the ship, the Thalon were fast learners, now no longer scared of heat or noise. One Thalon, Nira, was especially skilled. She had built a small, portable burner that worked on sunlight. Jonas gave her an impressed nod. Nice work, he said. You sure? You've never built a machine before? Nira laughed. We built water flutes and wind tunnels. Fire is new to us. Jonas smiled. Well, you're a natural. Commander Reed stood with Selen and alone, looking at a fresh map of the forest. Red circles marked infected zones. Green circles marked new clean zones, areas saved by the firewalls and the new protein shield injections. We're gaining ground, Reed said. Elone nodded slowly. The land still hurts, but it is breathing again, Selen asked. Can we make more of this? Shield. Reed looked toward the lab tent. Mira and Tali are working on it. We just need time. Selen's eyes narrowed. We may not have much. That night, Niru, the young Thalon girl, entered the command tent quietly. Her hands held a small leaf-wrapped bundle. I went to the deep grove, she whispered. I found this. She opened the bundle. Inside was a glowing root unlike any seen before, pulsed with soft blue light. Mira examined it carefully. This isn't infected, no, Neru said. This root only grows in sacred soil. It fights sickness in our old stories. Tali smiled gently. Maybe your stories are true. They tested the root with the fungus. To everyone's surprise, it worked even better than human protein. When combined, it nearly stopped fungal growth. In seconds, Reed's voice was quiet but firm. We may have a real weapon now. The next day, small teams of humans and Thalon traveled deep into the forest to search for more sacred roots. Neru led one of the teams herself, carrying a small scanner made by Jonas. They wore masks and carried flame sticks. The forest was still, dangerous, but they were no longer afraid. In one deep valley, they found a hidden grove, still green, untouched by the plague. A pool of clear water sat in the center, glowing with soft light. Roots grew thick and strong. This is it, Neru whispered. This place remembers. They collected samples and returned safely. Back at the village, Mira mixed the sacred root with the protein shield. The result was powerful, stronger than anything they had so far. "We'll call it the resist serum," she said. They began giving small doses to the Thal, starting with the warriors, then the healers, then the young. After a few days, the effects were clear. The Thalin who had been coughing were breathing freely again. The fungus stopped spreading in those already exposed, and no new infections appeared. Cheers broke out across the village. Alone stood before the people and raised her arms. "The earth remembers us, and the humans have given us its strength." The Thalin clapped. Some sang later that evening as the village shared a simple meal. Commander Reed walked with Mira through the quiet paths. "You've done something incredible," he said. Mira shook her head. "We all did." "Even Neru," Reed smiled. "Please." Neru, Myra grew thoughtful. "You know, Council would have never looked for a cure. They would have watched this world die." Reed's voice was calm but strong. "That's why we're not them." In the skies above Thalos, storm clouds gathered again, but this time the people were ready. Fire lines circled the village. Fresh serum was stocked in sealed chambers. Patrol teams watched the edges of the forest, and for the first time in weeks, the Thalin planted something. Small green seeds were placed in clean soil, seeds of flowers, herbs, and even trees. The humans helped, showing them how to use compost. "And moisture sensors? What are these called?" the Thalin child asked Jonas. "Tomatoes," he said. "Red, round, and very tasty." The child laughed. "Will they grow here?" Jonas smiled. "If you protect them, yes." As the night came, torches lit up the camp. The humans and Thalin stood together in a quiet circle. Elone stepped forward. "You brought fire," she said to the humans, "but not to destroy us. You brought blood, but only your own, to save others. You were strangers, but now you are part of this soil." Reed nodded. "We came because no one else would, but we stay because we believe in this fight." Neru looked up at Tali. "Are you going home soon?" Tali looked at the stars. "Someday, but not yet." "Why?" "Because Talos is worth saving." The seeds had been planted, not just in the soil, but in hearts. The resistance had begun, and now nothing would stop it. End of Part 5. The sky above Thalos was clear and bright. The stars shone like distant fires. Watching silently over the planet below, inside the village, life had begun to return to normal. Green shoots poked through the dark earth. Children laughed as they learned to plant seeds. The Thalin and humans worked side by side, building, healing, and protecting. But far above, in a massive silver ship, Galactic Council had finally taken notice. The Council ship Varela drifted near Thalos, its engines humming softly. Inside the grand chamber, tall figures in shining robes sat around a glowing table. The council leader, a tall being with silver skin named Vesker, spoke sharply. "We were wrong to abandon Thalos," Vesker said. "Humans have interfered. They claim to save the Thalin, but they bring disorder." Another council member shook her head. "The humans do not respect our laws. They bring fire and blood, not peace." Veskar's eyes narrowed. "We must take control. The humans will leave by force if needed." Back on Thalos, Commander Reed watched the sky from the watchtower. His jaw was tight. The Varela's signal had reached the man order to withdraw. Reed turned to his team. "You want us gone?" Mira frowned. "After everything we've done?" Salon's voice was steady. "We can't let them win now." Reed nodded. "We stand with the Thalin. We protect this world." The council ship sent down a message. "Humans, leave this planet immediately," the voice ordered. "The Galactic Council claims Thalos. Your presence is unauthorized." Reed replied firmly. "We will not leave. Thalos is under our protection." Tensions grew. The council ship moved closer, sending patrol drones over the forests. The Thalin watched nervously. One evening, Elone gathered the villagers. "The council comes," she said softly. "But we will not be alone." Reed stood beside her. "Are here together. The council sent a landing party. Dressed in white armor, their soldiers stepped onto the black soil. They looked at the burning trees and the armed humans. "Step aside," their commander demanded. "This planet is council property." Selen stepped forward, holding his flame launcher. "We protect our home." The council soldiers hesitated. They were trained for battle, but the Thalon and humans stood firm. Suddenly, alarms blared. The infected creatures, sensing danger, began to move again. The council soldiers panicked as fungal vines erupted near their feet. The creatures attacked. Forcing both sides to defend themselves, Reed called out, "Hold fire. We fight the fungus first." Humans and Thalon joined together, pushing back the creatures with fire and protein bombs. The council soldiers watched in surprise. As the humans risked their lives to protect even their supposed enemies. After the attack, the council commander approached Reed. "You have fought well," he said grudgingly, "but your presence here is illegal." Reed looked him in the eyes. "Sometimes doing what is right is illegal." Lone spoke, voice steady. "These humans are our protectors. Without them we would be lost." That night, the council held a meeting on their ship. "We cannot defeat the humans," Vesker admitted, "nor can we ignore their success." A younger council member spoke up. "Perhaps they teach us something. They fight for what they believe in." Vesker frowned, but nodded slowly. Back on Thalos, the humans and Thalon rebuilt the damaged homes. The threat of the council's return was still there, but for now, the people were safe. Reed stood with Mira and Tali. "We showed them what humans can do," he said quietly. "Not just with fire, but with heart." Mira smiled. "Maybe this is the start of something new." In the heart of the village, Neru and Selen planted a new tree. Its leaves shone bright green under the stars. Elone watched them. The future grows from hope and courage. Reed stood nearby. And from those who refuse to leave when others do. The galaxy may have doubted humans, called them carnivores, wild and dangerous, but on Thalos, the humans had proven themselves protectors, friends, and that truth would not be forgotten. End of Part 6. The sun rose slowly over the village of Thalos. The blackened trees still stood as scars of the long battle, but new green shoots had begun to grow between the ash and dirt. The air was clearer now, filled with the soft sounds of life returning. "Commander." Reed stood at the edge of the village, watching the horizon. His face was calm but thoughtful. Around him, humans and Thalon worked side by side, repairing homes, planting gardens, and sharing stories. This was no longer just a mission, it had become a new home. Inside the lab tent, Mira carefully studied the newest batch of samples. The fungus was still present in some places, but it was weaker now. The resist serum had slowed its spread and protected many of the Thalon from infection. Beside her, Tali prepared doses of the serum for the young Thalon children. Neru, the bright girl who had helped discover the sacred root, watched closely. "Will I be strong like the others?" Neru asked. Tali smiled warmly. "Yes, and even stronger." Outside, Selen led a group of Thalon and humans planting a new grove of trees. Each tree was carefully placed with a mixture of sacred root and soil treated with human protein compounds. "This is our future," Selen said, planting a seedling. "A place where we can live without fear." Jonas worked nearby, building new water systems to help the plants grow. "Soon, this place will be a forest again," he said. But the greatest change was in the hearts of the Thau, and where once they had been scared and weak, they now stood tall and proud. They had learned to fight with fire, to work with machines, and to trust the humans who had saved them. Elone, the village elder, gathered the people under the large tree that had survived the plague. "You called humans carnivores," she said. "Softly, but they have shown us the meaning of courage and sacrifice. They have given us hope when none was left." The Thalon bowed their heads in respect, far away. The Galactic Council watched. The Varela remained near Thalos, but no longer. With orders to remove the humans, instead, their messages had changed. "We will study this alliance," Vesker said quietly. "Humans have shown strength we did not expect," younger council member nodded. Perhaps this is the way forward. It's not by laws alone, but by hearts united. Back in the village, night fell. Stars sparkled above like diamonds scattered on. Black velvet Reed stood beside Alone near the fire. "Do you think we'll ever leave?" she asked. Reed looked up. "I don't know. Maybe that's not the point anymore." Alone smiled. "Maybe home is where you stand for what is right." Suddenly, a soft voice called from the crowd. It was Neru. "We planted seeds. We saved life. But what about the stars? Will humans come back to help others?" Reed smiled. "We will. Wherever there is need. Wherever hope calls." The people around nodded, their faces bright with hope. Days passed. The village grew stronger. The forests began to heal. The fungus retreated slowly into the darkest places. The humans trained the Thalon to become protectors of their land. They taught them to use tools to care for the soil, to fight threats when needed. Selen, now a respected leader, stood beside. "Reed, we are ready," he said simply. Reed nodded. "So am I." One morning, the Iron Wind's communications crackled to life. "Commander Reed, this is Galactic Command. The Council wants to meet." Reed looked at his team. "They want to talk." Mira smiled. "Maybe it's time they see what humans really are." The meeting was tense but hopeful. The Council asked questions. The humans answered honestly. The Thalons spoke of their new strength. Vesker said, "You have taught us that sometimes strength comes not from power alone, but from courage and heart." Reed replied, "Humans, don't give up on those who need help. We fight for more than survival. We fight for future." As the meeting ended, the Council agreed to leave Thalos in human and Thalon hands. But more than that, they invited humans to join the Council, to bring their courage and will to a galaxy often afraid to act. Back on Thalos, the village celebrated. Firelight danced on smiling faces. Songs filled the air. Alone raised a glass of fresh water. It's 2 new friends, 2 new hope. To the legacy of humanity, Reed raised his own glass. To all who stand when others walk away. And so on a small green planet once abandoned, a new story began. A story of courage, heart, and the unbreakable will to protect life. Because sometimes, being human means standing tall when no one else will. End of Part 7. The end.